Hello, and welcome to She Reads Monthly Podcast, where we interview women writers and authors' books. My name is Laura Foley. I am your host. Our podcast today features authors Ann Apfel, Catherine Whitemouse, Barbara Taylor Sherino, authors of Pray It Forward for the Next 7 Generations. And this is the book. It is available on Amazon, and actually, there's several different links. If you put in the name of the book, and also Katie has a copy of it, you can see where it comes up in several spots. And I would highly recommend purchasing the book and reading it. There's a lot of very important stories that need to be told in there. And there's also beautiful poetry and a lot of inspirational people in the book. So it's definitely not something that you want to miss by any means. We have several authors tonight. Like I said, the first author that we have is Ann Apfel. She is a poet, a writer, a publisher, a speaker, an artist, sun dancer, and healer, residing in Western New York. She has lived in New York, Washington, Germany, and Hawaii. On the Big Island of Hawaii, Ann attended a 4-year meditation school to become a meditation teacher. She has created her own publishing company to self-publish. She has published several children's books, 8 meditation books, as well as 2 books on Reiki. Ann has been a Reiki master for over 20 years. Her book, Pray It Forward, is a collaboration dedicated to the last 7 generations that prayed for us and our ability to pray it forward into the next 7 generations. Thank you, Ann, for joining us. I also have another author, Catherine Whitemouse. She is from the Oglala Sioux tribe. She was born in Rapid City, South Dakota. She speaks English, but understands Lakota, Spanish, and French. Her grandmother is the first medicine woman in the Oglala Sioux tribe. In her spare time, she volunteers in the Boys and Girls Clubs, the nursing home, and the homeless shelters. She is a single mother of one very handsome boy. We also have Barbara Taylor Sherino. She is the 8th great-granddaughter of Roger Williams, is a lifelong student of learning and unlearning, who grew up in Western New York and spent her time immersed in music and the natural world around her. She began expanding her worldview by studying nature, communications, psychology, and Native American studies at Cornell University. She holds a bachelor's degree in communication. She plans to publish in the future excerpts of her writings under the title As It Flows. Please welcome all our authors tonight. Ann, if you could just tell me a little bit about what the book is about.
Well, I can read the back for you.
Okay.
Prayer warriors today hold the tradition to do everything in life with the next 7 generations in mind. Pray It Forward sends our thoughts, prayers, and awarenesses out to the next 7 generations. The Native Americans prayed 7 generations into the future, and it is now our turn to light the fire and continue the prayers. This concept of praying it forward allowed Indigenous tribes to live with the earth in a way that did not harm land, air, and water. Today, we too can be mindful of the next 7 generations and how we make our decisions and live our lives. Join us in praying it forward.
Thank you. I do feel that is, really important to, think ahead for the next 7 generations. Because when you think of people like, and I can admit, like even myself, when you have trauma or things that go on, or your family dynamics are less than desirable, they may be very dysfunctional, that's what you learn. And then what do you pray forward? You pray forward that dysfunction, kind of creates a cycle. So I think it's very important that we kind of heal ourselves. We get ourselves to a point where we can empower our children, empower the next 7 generations forward, so that our children are empowering it forward too. And we're not, sending dysfunction into the next 7 generations. Now, out of everyone who wrote, stories in the book, did you find, and this is for anybody, that you had some kind of struggle when it came to writing your story for the book?
Not at all. It just flowed through me and came out in a good way, and I didn't struggle at all to write. It comes through me, and I'm just so happy to share that.
Yeah, it kind of flows.
I was going through something personal with mine, and it was
Sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
okay. I was going through something very personal, and it was I wrote about it in my piece, and I snuck a little hints in there, and yeah, it was very difficult for me. But as I got older, I'm really proud that I wrote about it. It was healing for me.
And Barbara, did you have any struggles or in what you wanted to say or?
I did. I had trouble putting into words the spiritual experience that I had. It was something that language couldn't really surround or explain, and it took me probably 7 years before I even really felt comfortable talking about it to my loved ones and my friends. And it's been, I think, 17 years now that I'm finally sharing the journals that I wrote about it, and participating in things like this to pray it forward, because I do feel very strongly that I was supposed to do that. I just really had a hard time um, putting it into words in a way that people would understand and that would do it justice.
Well, I felt that what you had written was very clear, and again, you wrote a beautiful poem in the back. So definitely that was definitely something that was very interesting and beautiful to read. And so I thank you for that, for including that in the book.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Katie, we're going to start with you tonight, if you don't mind. Um,
Sure.
One of the questions I have for you was that you were born with Brugada syndrome. It was a heart illness, and we're told you were going to die young. How did that impact your life?
Um, Many of my babysitters had to learn like CPR, and sometimes it affected my breathing and like having asthma at the same time. I don't know. It was um I'm at a certain point I got really tired of everyone babying me and babying it, and that really didn't define me. It just like really, I don't know, just got on my nerves.
That's all right. I must say, from what I've, I known you for a little bit, and I must say you've triumphed, through a lot of that. But it definitely, um, it can definitely be, difficult when you would like to, when you would like to continue and do things in your life and people are afraid for you. And they know you shouldn't go out, no, you shouldn't do this. And it kind of, maybe puts more challenges in front of you. So I thank you, for being able to share that. At the beginning of your story, you mentioned, I have prayed for 89 cultures, gone to 35 churches, and trying to find God because I am broken. What led you to believe that you were broken?
um Defined myself broken because all of them, it made me feel like I was unpure, and it just made me feel like I wasn't normal, and yeah, just like, yeah, I just put myself in this victim state that everyone was out to get me, everyone's out there to hurt me. If I let them in close, I'm going to get hurt more, and then more broken and more damaged.
Did you find
So
when you were searching through like the different prayers and the different cultures and the different churches, did you find that you made a connection with God?
um yeah, Yes, yes, I did.
You also said you feel that there has been constant corruption within your tribe. How does it affect families today?
There's less jobs out there. The education, people, it's like 75 will drop out and not even finish high school. And drug rate is high, alcohol rate is high, suicide rate is high. There's no jobs for the ones that didn't finish high school, and most of them have families, so it's very hard. Uh, yeah, it's hard to watch.
Do you feel
Oh.
that there are enough programs out there for people on your reservation to help them?
Um, Probably not. There's programs to educate you about finance, and there's counseling programs, and there's other programs that help education for adults, but they need more computers. They need more space. They need more space in the college buildings. They're just practically a little tiny room like this. And I think that they need like more resources to stop the historical trauma.
What kind of programs do you think would be beneficial?
Um, so they celebrate death more than births or weddings or like any gathering, birthdays. It's kind of sad. So there's more funerals, and I guess to help that is to I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that because I'm still searching for that answer. There's so many parts of historical trauma, and each tribe is different. And that's why I went and prayed at many different tribes, and the way they look at God, the way they stay humble, the way they are more modern than most. I I'm still searching. So I don't know the answer to that one.
Now, in your conversation though, you mentioned historical trauma. What is that? Could you tell us a little bit about that and why you wanted to study it?
um the Mohegan tribe, they were having like a um where they educate people about historical trauma and what it done to their tribe, and how they even got through it. And through that, their stories and many other stories, I looked at Thanksgiving in a whole new light, and I looked at every other holiday in a different light. And I always thought like, um, while everybody else, were celebrating, my mother and my father and my grandparents were like crying. And I always
Mm.
wondered that. And terrible things happened that they just know stories and they never told me. And it's, I always wondered that. And through the historical trauma, I always wondered why my mother and my grandmothers never hugged me as much. And
Yeah.
I found out. Yeah. And I found out about boarding schools, and I found out about other things. And it really touched my heart. Now I know why. And there was a pattern that was
Mm.
going on. So now I know why. And
And why maybe they were closed off a little bit?
yeah. Yeah.
In one line of your poem, you wrote, "Being on the reservation is hell." Can you explain a little bit about that?
Okay, so everybody doesn't like to see each other grow. Um, I think the housing is too close together. There's not enough resources. Um, when I was going through um, this book, COVID was going and happening, and my tribe got millions and millions of dollars, and there was so much money, and everybody got a little bit of money, but everybody was still suffering after that because they like went out and bought stupid things, and it was just chaos in that time period. That's why I called it hell. There was no peace. Everybody was fighting. The dogs were going wild, and they hired security. So if you caught COVID, they made you stay in one area and practically harassed you. So there was just a lot going on that time.
Sounds like a lot of unrest.
Yeah.
So now, after all that has happened, and you were interviewing people in your chapter in the book, you talk about, questions that you were asking friends and people and what things meant to them. What I wanted to know from you is, what does freedom personally mean for you?
Freedom. I don't know.
Is it attainable for you?
It is. Um, freedom is like the pressure of not feeling like you have bills to pay, you have things to do all the time. Freedom is like, I don't know. America is supposed to be free, but I don't feel free. So I don't know how to express that question.
No,
It's a
I think
difficult one.
I think you expressed it very well in saying that freedom, there's a lot of things about, America that's supposed to be free. And I feel that for those that have money and power, so many things are free. And for those of us who don't have that, it's like we're expected to contribute, most of our savings and most of ourselves towards that, but others get a free pass. So it's kind of hard to say that, yes, we have freedom.
Yeah.
You've made a bucket list, and what inspired your bucket list?
Just everybody telling my mother that like she's not be able to do this, she's not be able to do that. She might die at this age if she just keeps up with this kind of diet, and just telling all of these things to my mother. Got inspired by the bucket list um, through that tomorrow isn't always promised. And we got to live life to the fullest, like right now, and um, do stuff like that. So,
It's definitely a beautiful way to say that tomorrow is not promised. And you don't know if when you wake up in the morning, those that you love are going to be with you. And so now is the time to kind of hug your kids and love everybody as best you can, even ones that seem so unlovable, because you're right, tomorrow isn't promised and we never know, what's going to happen. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for sharing with us. Please don't go away, but I'm very thankful for you and for your bravery and sharing and telling us, things that hopefully, can be changed and will make life on the reservation better and, give you the freedom that you so need and deserve.
thank you.
Now, the next author that I have up who contributed was Barbara Taylor Sherino. And what I wanted to ask you, Barbara, is what does it mean to be a lifelong student of learning and unlearning?
It means for me that you are raised in a family, you're raised in a community, you're raised in a culture, that has certain rules and expectations, a way of doing things, and to a degree, that's good, but to a degree, you end up with things that you also need to unlearn. And in order to do that, you have to remove yourself from that space and immerse yourself in the way that other people do things, other families, other cultures, other communities. And it's very important, I think, to polish your belief system and let go of things that don't serve you and that don't serve your community. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. What has inspired you to become a seeker of truth?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I don't know if I can answer that. I think in part seeing dysfunction, in my family, in my friends, and in my community, and in our culture here in the United States, and all of the different cultures in the United States, makes you, or made me, want to explore how to heal that, to balance that, because it didn't feel like a place that we could stay and be healthy. There's a certain level of frustration. There's a certain level of experiencing trauma where you're moved forward and wanting something new, not just for yourself, but for everyone.
Do you find that it's harder to move forward when you have unresolved trauma, or is it kind of easier to figure out what the trauma is and then move forward?
I don't think that we're taught really to recognize trauma and how to move through it into something else, into healing and in balance. And honestly, I feel like that is something that should be taught before calculus is taught,
Yes.
because every family has dysfunction. Every life has dysfunction, and it's important for us to navigate that, just like you learn how to drive a car. There's scientifically the way your body functions, the way your breath functions, the way your muscle functions, the way your spirit functions. There are methods available to move you forward into healthy balance.
What was it like growing up in a homogeneous community?
Oh, wow. I say that, but it was also Italian and Polish and Irish. So there were still culture clashes. There was still trauma from anything that was different. And you could see the rigidity between cultures. I think we are fearful of anything that's different than what we're used to. But maybe on a subconscious level, we're not completely aware of it consciously. We're aware that we get fearful, maybe that we get tense, and that we don't like how it makes us feel, just like maybe the first day of kindergarten. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. And we lose that. We get lost in the fear of something that's different, and we become reactive instead of maybe creating some space there. And there's a lot of things that we like about other cultures. Think about all the different foods that you like. If you only had, one type of food, how boring would your life be? And I think to a degree, being raised in this sort of a narrow worldview, pre-internet,
Yeah.
we had 3 stations growing up. It was much, much more limited than it is now. Yeah.
And I can totally relate to that, and like the 3 television channels. And for me, growing up, we had the rabbit ears and we had black and white.
Yes.
So kids always, the kids I work with can never fathom that. Like, God, really?
And people didn't really travel. And there weren't really people visiting the community that looked different, that sounded different, that had different traditions. I had a grandmother that was a French teacher, and she had quite the collection of National Geographics. And when I would go and visit her, I would kind of cloister myself in this one area and just immerse myself in those other cultures, and just was fascinated. It was not off-putting for me, and I'm not really sure why. I don't know if that's common for everybody or if that was just a common thing for just me. I just found it refreshing to see the different ways that people embrace life and how they love each other, and their creativity, their art, their architecture, just fascinated me.
Now, with your interest in all these different cultures and your learning, was that kind of off-putting to your family? Like your parents, were they like, oh no, or were they just very accepting of that?
I was never really, I was adventurous to a degree when I was young, but maybe more so when I was older, and kind of spread my wings a little bit. So I'm not sure that really my parents saw a lot of that. I don't really know if I have a good answer for that.
That's quite all right. You mentioned growing up with a very narrow worldview. In what ways have you broadened your view now?
I think I brought more of a flexible approach. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe that. So when you're encountering something that's new, there is a level of putting up a wall or a boundary and protecting yourself from it somewhat, sort of like a survival thing. Shifting that a little bit and being a little bit more curious and gentle allows you to make space for things that are new, to not feel like you're rigid and that you're fearful. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Did you find though, that with expanding your view, maybe that you'd like to travel more and like see other countries? Have you been able, or other cultures, have you been able to do that?
I've traveled a little bit. I've been to, I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Yeah.
So if I got a chance to go someplace that I could be near the ocean anywhere in the world, I was on board for that. If I could do any kind of citizen science, where I could, help an endangered species or contribute to an ecosystem or experience a culture that way, I did that too. Leatherback turtles in Costa Rica. I lived a few different places as well, and I highly recommend, in any way that you can, to immerse yourself in things that are new to you, and to be curious and gentle with it.
Thank you. I know there used to be something, and unfortunately, I cannot remember the name of it. And my brother actually used to tell me about it, where it was a magazine that would come to you, and you would go through this magazine, and it would talk about different countries and like cultures. And it would say, okay, if you'd like to go to Canada and learn about the wolves for like 5 days, this is how much it costs. And you can go and you can learn about the wolves or the moose. And you can go to Chile and like work in the rainforest. Or, you can go to Hawaii and learn about the volcanoes, or how things affect the ecosystem. And that, again, go somewhere and study the leatherback turtles. There was so many different things where you could go and learn about the people and the animals and the plants and how you could help. And they would tell you how much it cost and like if you had this kind of experience in like photography or mountain climbing or animals or anything, knew anything about plants, then, that was a plus. If you didn't, that was okay. They tell you like how hard the trek was going to be or where you were going to be. So you could kind of gauge like, yes, I'd love to do that, but we're going to be climbing in the mountains and I've never backpacked in my life. So maybe that's not for me, but it was really a beautiful thing. And they had hundreds of different things, throughout the
Yes.
that you could go and you could do. And, around $1,000, sometimes more. And this was
Right.
back, maybe 10 years ago or so. But so I'm sure it's
Right.
a little more steep now, but definitely something I think that if people were able to do to help in some way and to learn about that, I would highly recommend it.
It's important for us to keep balance in not just human lives, but in all lives, because we're all part of an ecosystem as much as we'd like to think that we are individuals. And you can immerse yourself locally. If you can't travel far away, there's wildlife out your door. There's an ecosystem out your door. There's people out your door. There's always somewhere that you can volunteer. You should just connect yourself in some way so that you feel like you're not only connected, but that you're giving back. And that has a way of healing trauma.
Definitely being out in nature is like one of the greatest things, especially barefoot, when you can connect with the ground. Where does the inspiration for writing your poetry come from?
I really relate to what Anne was saying at the beginning of the podcast, that it just flows through you. When you hit on something that is meaningful, if you're open, and your mind is sort of in that meditative, thoughtful state, it really does feel like it flows through you, not necessarily that it's coming from you.
Yeah. When can we expect to see more of your poetry in print?
That's a good question. I think I'll have to talk to you a little bit more about that. I have been sort of feeling pressed, nudged in that direction for many years.
Yeah.
And being a part of this project allowed me to kind of open that door just a crack. I'm in a place now where I feel that it's not something that I can put off any longer. I feel like it's important to share, so that other people can heal and find balance in their lives. So hopefully soon.
Well, we would love to definitely hear more of your poetry and to see it in print. So, we are definitely excited, and I'm definitely waiting for that to see
Thank you.
when it comes around, and then maybe we could do a podcast.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing, a lot of insight and for being so willing to go out there and experience everything that sometimes might be fearful, and being able to go out there and, have those experiences and being able to, share them with other people and share them with us and kind of break down the walls that we kind of put up when it's something new. So something we all need to do.
If I could add to that very quickly.
Yes.
When you're navigating situations, if you notice rigidity in yourself, you usually will feel that in your chest, in your body, and in the tension of that's the moment when you want to move to mindfulness practices and breathing, meditation, deep breathing and meditation.
Yes.
To center and ground yourself so that you can relax a little bit and really experience what you're meant to experience instead of tensing in fear over it.
And that's very perfectly said. There is an app that I have. It's called Insight Timer. And
that too.
And I love it because if you get up in the morning and you find you're stressed and you've only got 4 minutes, well, there's a meditation right there for you to do 4 minutes. And if it's your lunch hour, like on mine, and you find you have 45 minutes, you could either do a guided meditation or you can just listen to music, put your headphones on, drown out the children's music in the background that, is baby Mozart or something. And yeah, it really, I love it. And it always asks you to check in. So you kind of put in how you're feeling and, whether it's good or bad, and what, they'll ask you, well, what's encouraging that feeling? Is it finances? Is it health, spirituality, friends, family, work, whatever? And then you click on those things, and then they'll give you suggestions and meditations towards things that can help you. And if, if those don't interest you, you can always go back to new ones or redo old ones. And I find that to be such a great help. So yes, meditation is definitely, and the deep breathing or belly breathing is definitely a great thing to do too. So thank you for that. Yes, definitely. And not to leave you out, but you are the next person I'm gonna focus on. And I want to talk to you. You talk about energy leading you to find balance in the center. What do you feel causes one to go out of balance when it comes to energy?
Life. Just living in this world that we are confined in. And I remember you asking Katie about freedom.
Yeah.
And that question really, the Hochoka, the center, and the balance that we can create when we feel that freedom. But so much we're not allowed to feel that freedom because of the constraints of democracy, of the world we live in. And so Pray It Forward for the Next 7 Generations concept had these understandings that we don't have right now, but they had 7 generations ago. My experience, I didn't experience the generational trauma that Katie did, because my ancestors were in the 1600s and the 1700s. And so I didn't have to be so imbalanced in my life as those who are on reservations or who have so much difficulty.
Now, do you find now that with everything that you hear on the news and what's going on in the world, the experiences that you have, the stories like today that we hear from people, it's harder to stay balanced? And if so, what are some suggestions you can give to other people who maybe are feeling so overwhelmed with and bombarded with what's going on today?
It is difficult to stay balanced in today's world. Meditation is great for me. I every day grounding my body and moving energy through my body just to clear the negative energies that come in, any pain and fear and hate and jealousy, and you just remove those at the beginning of the day and bring in what you want to experience during that day. So bring in your love and your joy, and you can start to have that.
What was the most priceless piece of wisdom you ever received from an elder?
Aha. My mother said the only thing you really need is a good mechanic.
That is true, and they are hard to find. Tell us about what it takes, what the process is to become a sun dancer.
Oh, it's being called by the energy. And I met a sun dancer on the Big Island of Hawaii, and I touched him. And after I touched him, I experienced visions of following him down this road. And he put his pipe wrapped up in my hands, and he didn't tell me what it was. And he said, "What do you see?" And I said, "I see myself following you down the road." And then later I found out that was his bundle and included his pipe.
And when in your story, in the book, when you start talking about the sun dance, you talk about the different feathers that you found. Now, were those ones that you maybe had a vision of and you knew, okay, I'm supposed to include these, or are they just ones that during your journeys and going through nature and along your life that you found, and then you said, okay, there's a significance to finding this here where you never might have seen it?
I found those feathers and I walked a lot. To prepare for Sundance, I would walk sometimes 10 miles a day. And so those feathers were so precious, and I had them with me at a desk like this, and I was playing my flute, and I became overcome by the energy, and I just went into this trance, and each of the feathers had a meaning, and it took about 4 hours to go through this where they were projecting me into the energy of a Sundance, and before I ever took my physical body to a Sundance.
Now, I know that we had been talking about freedom. And do you find when you're in a Sundance and you're performing the Sundance that there's a sense of freedom there?
Yes, that we don't get anywhere else. And some of the people in the book, when Katie interviewed them, a lot of people said freedom is love. So I found that interesting that came out of more than one person.
What was it like to be chosen?
Difficult. It wasn't an easy path, and it wasn't something that you have a choice in. I think Rachel said the same thing, that her father told her that once you're taken to be a Sundancer, you don't have a choice. So she made these little red moccasins for me to go into Sundance.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they have a little butterfly beadwork, and her clan is Beaver Clan. She did text me, by the way, and apologize for not being able to make it tonight.
Well, we'll definitely, for everyone here, we will definitely, do a part 2. And I would definitely like to include her in the story and, and hear, her thoughts too. So that is, not out of the realm of possibility by any means. And what was it like to be the last Rogers in your family line?
Oh, it's interesting to be Anne Elizabeth Rogers in this society where there are going to be no more male Rogers, but just me. Yeah.
Now, I have a question for everybody here. One, if you'd like to, anyone who has written some poetry, if you'd like to read some of your poetry, we'd love to hear it. If there's anybody who's written something that would like to read something, we can do that. And then I have another question that I'd like to kind of round out the evening with. But if anyone would like to read something, we would definitely be open to hearing that. And whoever would like to go first, you can just, start.
Barb, you go first.
Okay. So this is a part of the poetry that I wrote about my spiritual awakening that happened 17 years ago. I felt a release, like I had given the last drop of everything I had held up to the wind to blow away, to dissolve into nothing. My body felt as though I had quietly surrendered every tension, every worry, every thought, as if I'd slept my best sleep ever and awoken renewed. As if for a long time I had been at the ready for something, in fight or flight preparedness. As a living creature that has to stay alive and safe and fed and unharmed. My earthly, fleshy self or ego. Except I was just laying on my left side in a twilight lit room, easing into sleep. That, I think, was a punctuation mark in a sea of wordless calm. I remember that moment as a beginning, as an ending, as the first time I'd ever felt so completely relaxed, so completely finished. I gave up everything I had ever held onto. I surrendered. I today would say I dissolved my ego, but it has taken me years to put that into words, to write about it, to talk about it. It's like trying to describe an incredible sunset to someone who was born blind. Words are inadequate, limiting, no matter how you change them, no matter how long the sentences become. And people have egos and filters and cultures. So it changes, is limited, or it becomes something else entirely. The purity of it felt like something I should be protective of, from change, from misinterpretation, from becoming something else entirely. I don't think it was spontaneous. I think I had subconsciously been working toward it, but in the opposite way you work towards something. It's a different kind of state of mind than concentration and trying. You're not delving into details and categorizing and analyzing. You're letting go of details, categories, analysis. You're not in a pecking order, checking who is where. There is no pecking order. The clarity and calm was a depth of feeling, a letting go of feelings, a letting go of beliefs and filters, of the software, the culture, the programming, the wants, the needs, the worries, into what is real, not what is invented and created by the ego, into the clearest, cleanest, quietest water, an unmuddied sense of being. Perhaps this is what some call purification, resurrection. In the days that followed, I stayed in that state of what I can only describe as God consciousness. How you feel looking at your newborn for the first time. Little to no thought, no expectation, no categorizing, no language. Simply put, purity, joy, love. Not jumping up and down, ego, excited, rush, but deep calm, clarity, joy. As if you just witnessed the creation of the earth and sky and all of the incredible creatures in it, in awe, in love.
Very beautiful, especially, witnessing the creation of the earth and the sky. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie, do you want to read anything? Or Anne, would you like to read something?
Oh, go, Katie.
Okay. I wrote I want to be free, but see, all my grandfathers was in the Freedoms Act. So I'm free took a whole new meaning for me. Before the 70s Act, we couldn't pray in our ways. So I'm free took a whole new meaning for me. And I had to hear their stories and what they had to do in order for us to be free to pray in our ways. Sundance, sweats, the stories, the songs. And to hear my grandfathers say that all those natives that went to the boarding school, they held on to their tongue. They got hurt really, really badly, but they still sang their songs. They still spoke their tongue, and we just got to honor them. So I'm free is a whole new meaning to me. So I want to be free without people telling me what to do. I want to be like Peru. I want to go to all my sacred I want to go to all my sacred places to pray. I want to be able to go to eagleness in a humble way without getting shot in the face by a different race. I want to be free. I want to hear my native tongue on TV, radio, globally. I want to be free from all the murders, rapes, drugs, and alcohol. I want to stop it all. I want to be free without going to the army, killing people, coming back with PTSD. I want to be free. From all the historical trauma, the boarding schools, the goons, the AIM gangs, I want to be free. From all the water that causes cancer and the food that causes diabetes, I want to be free. I want to be free from all of the suicides because it's a crazy way out, and because on the reservation it is hell, too much pain, no financial gain. I want to be free. I want to be free without tribal presidents, councils, treasurers, stealing money and using people for head count. I want to be free. Plus, I forgot how beautiful it was, or it is, to be free. And in my piece, I put Henry Dominiches and Naiche Dominiches, who was in the AIM, and they served the gold rush in California. And my auntie Randy Morrison, who served the Marines as a woman, and that's very tough. My best friend, who me and her shared a really terrible trauma together, and I put it in my piece for me, and I won that case. And I stood up to my enemy. And yeah, to leave a legacy behind, because this book is, it's like what I wrote behind if I pass away. If my future generations was to see this, I wrote them a special message. I want, to my future daughters, nieces, and granddaughters. I want every man to love them and respect them. I want you to respect you. I want you to love you. May your husband be a provider. May he be intelligent. May he be strong like a warrior. May he be respectful of your culture and you honor his and he honor yours. May he think like a scientist. May he help you through labor and hard times. May he think before he speaks, because words hurt just as much as physical touch and sometimes worse. May you surprise each other, because each day is a present. To my future sons, nephews, grandsons, they must love their women like I love you. They must respect their women like I respect you. You must never give up on family. And if you make a child, help raise that child. Every child needs a dad. And go and be something great and let your sons follow. And may you be a leader. And may you find a love that impacts your future generations. And remember, you're capable of anything. And don't let anything stop you.
Very beautiful and very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to write that down and let them know that that's what you hope for them. And I believe, by speaking those words out there, that yes, historical trauma and generational trauma can be stopped, because we're teaching them, how others should be treated. How we're going to treat them is how they should treat, others and their wives and their families and their children, and, that they can become something when maybe it seems like everything around them is nothing. So that is a very important piece to definitely put in there. Thank you for sharing that. And now, Anne, if you'd like to share some of your poetry.
Sure. I'm just gonna say that this wouldn't have been possible without me meeting Seneca Pine Tree Chief Warren Sky Senior and his influence in teaching me about how the government picked up everything for the Constitution, for how we govern, leaving out the Seneca thought, do everything for the next 7 generations. And it also included women and their government, which our government left that one out too for quite some time. So he was just so instrumental in me understanding some of these concepts that as a, young girl, most people wouldn't think about. So I was just so lucky to have spent that time with him. So I will read his poem, Listen to My Hands. Listen to my hands as they offer you their thank yous, as you welcome me into your life, the life of beauty in your outstretched limbs. Come the song of little birds that lift my mind and raise my spirit. Listen to my hands as they gently pad you, and listen to my prayers of thanking you for your many cures and all the beauty that surrounds you. Listen to my hands as they honor the white pine and touch the many flowers of your garden, leaving the scent in my hands. Forgive the times I took you for granted, for I have been with you so long. I know now that with my undying love for you, I will soon come home to you, my beautiful Mother Earth. And he gave me that poem one day when I was at the house, at his house, writing a poem, and I wanted to borrow his Lakota Seneca, an American dictionary, so that I could do a poem in 3 languages. And I was able to do that thanks to him, and he gave me that poem to publish.
It is a very beautiful poem and a very powerful poem.
It's special.
He sounds like he was such an inspiration to you, and what a wonderful leader, and a
Was
person.
he cried when he got electricity. He didn't want to live that way in his lifetime, but eventually it came to the reservation and he did. There was a story that really moved me that I saw one time that talked about how the original people were here, and a trapper that came and witnessed this, the animals, that he would walk outside his door and there was just deer that you could live off of, and the bears didn't cause any trouble because everything was in nature was set up harmoniously at that time, just to everyone had enough, and so there was no fighting. And I
There was
thought
kind
that
of a
was,
balance.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna read one more. And walk in love to the Creator, because a prayer continues to travel, circling eternally, infinitely, inside of consciousness. You are a prayer everywhere at once, released into spirit, amplified by Creator, able to guide and direct future generations with your heart for understanding. Make a conscious prayer full of love for the future. Send it out. Watch your beauty change the world as your spirit returns again and again inside your prayer. To those in need of help, to those who need your wisdom, walk in love to the Creator.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As we're wrapping things up here and unfortunately drawing to a close, I was wondering if each of you could kind of leave some inspiration or some words of kind of praying it forward to the next 7 generations. What would you say?
I think I can go first on that.
Okay.
To know if you're in the right space. It has a feeling in your body, in your breath, in your mind, and in your spirit. And it's an open, curious, gentle, spacious place to be. That's how you know when you're doing it right. If you sense rigidity in yourself, reactivity in yourself, that's the time when you have to create space. And there's all kinds of techniques to do that listed in Annie's books, in mindfulness techniques and meditation techniques, and giving to others, doing something for someone else. There's all kinds of ways to bring yourself into balance. And I feel like if we all made an effort to be better at that, that it would resolve a lot of the conflict in the world.
Thank you. Katie, did you want to add something?
Let's see here. I was gonna leave something. This is you asked me a question. You said, can we live a life that will positively influence the next 7 generations? And mine was yes. I'm raising my son to have a goal, meet that goal, whether it's writing, modeling, big projects, just pursue it. No matter how hard and difficult life can be, just keep at it, son. And be a good dad to my grandchildren.
Wonderful, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Anne, what would you say?
Pray for the next 7 generations. May consciousness find you to direct you with truth. May your choices consider not only yourself, but the next 7 generations. May you grow to understand your place inside creation. May we meet in infinite creation as well spirits.
Thank you. And I would say too that, for the next 7 generations, may you live a life that's filled with love, that you love others as much as you learn to love yourself on the inside. May you be grounded and centered and realize your full potential and power. May you experience true freedom in a sense of you can be who you want to be and live a life how you want to live without the constraints of what society may tell us, we have to be or we should be. May you have children that are raised in love and beauty. May you experience everything there is to experience in the world and not be afraid, and to be able to move forward and pass that on, to love your neighbor and love others and pass that on for their next 7 generations. Well, I thank you everyone for joining us and for the beauty in your words and the powerful testimonies that you shared with us. It was definitely heartfelt, and people definitely need to hear this and know about this. And I definitely look forward to doing a part 2 with everyone. So thank you very much for everything that you were able to contribute tonight. And thank you, Uma, for joining us.
Thank you